Hello and welcome to the Phil and Matt. It's generally a rant show. This week we'll be just complaining about the entire state of the hobby and why we've got no kits and what is wrong with people. Basically.
Yeah, we're on a negative vibe. Negative
A
vibes,
negative
man,
vibe.
negative vibes.
That's it, definitely. Unfortunately, again, we're here with another week and there's just nothing really happening. And then we were thinking about, of all what we've been promised, as in kit releases that we've never seen.
Yeah,
and why do companies do that? That's worse.
People ought to bleep bloop a comment down below on this video of, because we can't remember everything, but obviously like kits that have been announced from manufacturers and never materialised. Italy was one, weren't it? With what was it?
Oh, they were going to do a 48 scale Merlin. It was in the Navy one. Never saw it.
Trumpeter did a few, didn't they?
Yes.
In the 30-second range that never materialised.
Yeah.
These big Phantoms.
Yeah, the 30-second scale new series of Phantoms, gone very quiet.
Nothing from them, and I bet there's a load more as well, isn't there, to be honest, where we've forgotten. Yeah. You know, I presume they're out of business, but Tan Model was one of the best, weren't it? We're going
Tang models have promised us everything.
48 F111 and something else, and
yes,
yeah, that never. I don't know why companies do it, to be honest. Actually, another one that's got a gripe with at the minute is Special Hobby with a 177 Grief, which is actually a kit in production, or you know, we've got a kit and then we're upgrading it with all these fancy 3D parts and everything. Never seen the light of day again. Never heard from it, and it's just seemed to have disappeared. And it's well, why announce it? You know what I mean? Just when it's ready, then you announce it. Not you know, 2 years in advance and go, yeah, this is, and it just I know things change and the world changes a little bit, but again, there's never any sort of communication either from the companies to say this is why you're not seeing it. It just, you know, they just open, we'll just sweep that under the carpet and we'll never see it again.
Just
you know, I mean,
about that.
We've got an issue with the B24 Liberator from Hobby Boss, as in not enough has been bought in.
Yes.
Just the dog's off to the groomers, if you can hear all that.
Fair enough.
So she might be getting excited and barking. You know, they've not bought enough in. Literally nowhere near enough. So it's going to be another 6 to 8 weeks before we see a proper allocation. So I do apologise for everybody on our pre-order list, but you're not going to get one again because we ain't got none and we can't get it. So again, it's a bit ranting.
And again, that's the other problem I think we've got. You know, there's so many problems in this hobby at the moment, and it's one of the big ones is obviously getting stuff into the UK. You know, and I know personally because I've been trying to bring something import into the country, been declined at customs, it's been sent back. And, you know, again, you just weeks and weeks and weeks to try and get these things sorted. And it's just, everything's becoming a real hassle. And I can understand modelers' frustrations and just going direct or to the country, which is, let's face it, it's going to be China. You know, and things like that, because things are available. And I know this goes the other way as well before everyone says it's, you know, goes, because I know getting Airfix into Australia.
Yeah.
It's taking forever because I get people saying to us, God, we've only just got such and such has only just turned up over here. So I appreciate there's a logistics problems of getting kits around the world. But I think the trouble you have these days is that because of social media and people like us talking about it, it becomes a little bit of a hype. And then you get the disappointment that you're months and months away from actually getting onto it and actually building it and doing it. And I think that's where, you know, the technology of, you know, social media and things like that, and obviously companies as well, being able to talk to directly to use the customer is fantastic. But then you've got that lag. And that's where people get frustrated. And then, like as you said before, we've just entered what I commonly call in the UK, the cliff. And it's something that I've been doing this for 25 years now. And if you go back all our statistics and stats, and it's about amount of people who watch our videos, the free stuff, and obviously for members as well. And it's like the stats. And I was showing the guys after the show that we did last Thursday. And you can literally look at the chart and it bibbles along like this. And you get to May and it goes half. And it bibbles along through the summer, and we get to October. Obviously, the clocks change, the weather's horrible in the UK and everything else, and suddenly it goes back up. And it's roughly this plateau, and it goes every single year. When COVID hit, as horrible as it was great because we didn't get that because everyone was home, nobody could do anything else, everyone was doing modelling, and stuff like that. So from our point of view, it kept the plateau going. But we've arrived back to how it used to be pre-COVID times, and you get the cliff. What worries me now, though, is because we're not seeing any releases at all throughout the entire summer and things like that, is that people are going to get bored, and then they're going to go off and look for other things to do and other hobbies, which they're going to get into and not physically come back to the scale modeling scene. And my big worry is that we're getting, as you know, we speak of, getting older, and there's less and less of us. If you think of the old funnel and falling off the cliff at the top, shuffling off this mortal planet, there's less and less of us as we're getting up. So it's getting narrower and narrower. And that's the problem now, is that, we're getting into that stage. So we can't afford to lose anybody else because there's not enough people coming in at the bottom to do it. So unfortunately, that's my biggest gripe. My other big gripe as well is that small companies, model shops, classic little thing that we all knew as a kid, and you used to go and you walk around. We own one, me and Matt, clearly, and things like that. It's one of those things where it's such a dying breed because we cannot compete with the big companies, because the big companies are getting bigger because more and more people are going to them, because that's the only place you can get them. So they can afford to drop their prices a little, which then basically sometimes, as me and Matt says, they're selling it at less than we can buy kits for. So we can't compete at all. So you're being squeezed out. So what's happening is you're getting less and less people into the hobby, less and less people taking part of the hobby and then buying it, the kits and all the rest of it. All the small little companies are disappearing. And then obviously what you're going to get to is just a situation where it becomes a real niche hobby. So it's going to get really expensive again. Because there's not many units. If you're only selling 100 kits, most companies will be, well, it's not even worth doing it, and they'll move into other areas. And I think that's the trouble. And, like me and Matt have said before, and we speak about, and I won't go for the full rant one before Matt thinks I'm off on one. But the trouble is that the world's changing, but modeling isn't evolving. It's not changing how times are changing and things are going, because there's too many people stuck in the old ways, which is great for them because they're in their little bubble. But the big picture of what's going to happen in 10, 20 years, I think is going to be not brilliant news for the hobby, because it needs to evolve and it needs to change. And you can see companies trying to do it, like Airfix are trying to do it and things like that. And obviously, if you look at what Tamiya's doing these days, definitely Hasegawa. If you look at what Hasegawa's up to, and obviously with Bandai, they're evolving. They're embracing new ideas and new groups to get involved with and things like that. And they're actually focusing their energies in there whilst keeping somewhat this side of it still going as well as they're transferring across, but they're preparing for it. But I think there's so many companies out there which aren't,
Hey, I just had a thought. From actual, say, the more traditional form of the hobby, as in the ships and the aircraft and stuff. Do you know what else I think is a problem as well? There's, back in the day, there was a lot of aircraft manufacturers. So there was always a lot of variants of aircraft coming out.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Well, now you've
the
got
world.
3.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm talking from the US here as well, because that's obviously one of the bigger manufacturers of aircraft, let's be honest, with the Boeing and everything else, right? But the actual variety of aircraft, they've designed them so well now that one aircraft can do multiple roles. So you don't need an aircraft to do this role and that role and every other role.
No, that's it, yeah.
1 or 2 aircraft can do it all. So naturally, from a cost point of view, because how much things cost, they don't need to, like I say, build multiple versions of, different planes and stuff like that. So again, though, but for a hobby, it makes it so there's not much variation. You're going to get an F-35A, a B, and a C.
Yes.
Where before you would have got, an F-16 or something, even further back, there would have been different aircraft that did different roles. But again, I don't think that makes it very, very exciting either for a prospect of somebody coming into the hobby of there's not a lot to go off, or because really the planes that we can remember and before, not going to be for them, is it? Unless you're really into history and stuff, and it does interest you. For the general thing, for us, it was just like, oh, I kind of, we can see one of them flying pretty much. You know, you can see a Phantom fly, you can see a Jaguar, you can see a Hunter, you could see whatever it was that the RAF were flying at the time. The RAF now have got what, Eurofighter, which is probably about retired, and F-35 in it.
Yeah, that's it.
We had a good variation.
Oh, we had lots of stuff.
I like that plane. I don't like that one, but I like that one. Well, now you've got a very little pool to like. What interests you? Do you know what I mean? And then the French had their own air force, the US had their own air force, and different countries obviously had different aircraft to a point where a lot of them now just use the same.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a factor as well. It's same with armor, isn't it? A little bit, there was quite a few variations of a main battle tank, and then there were, but now, you've got 4 perhaps, Leopard, an Abrams, a Charlie, and a Leclerc. Is it? Do the French still use their own tanks? Do they?
I think so. Yeah.
And then there's a few odds and sods around, but again, most of them use because it's NATO standard, shall we say?
Yeah.
So again, it's all relevant, I think, to this side of the hobby. Like I say, I think especially in the Far East and stuff, if you look in Japan, their market's more geared up to, like say, the Gunpla stuff and the robots and other. I think that's just their culture. And we were just saying, when you do shows in Europe as well, they're very armor based, as in dioramas and figures and aircraft. Again, I don't think they're there, but I don't think they're perhaps as popular. I don't really know. But the shows we've been to, it just seems more military orientated for the land side of it rather than the air of it. So I don't know. I think it's just perhaps it's a cultural thing over here in the UK. Then you don't know, do you, really?
It is. Obviously, like we said before, it's one of those things where if you go on the continent, luckily enough, me and Matt have been lucky enough to do a few shows over there in the past. And it's one of those ones where if you look at the UK, it's based around aircraft, let's face it. If you go to Telford, you go to the rest of it, the big shows, it's all technically aircraft. You get lots of armour as well, sort of second place, and then obviously you go through your civilian stuff and your ships and that. But it was always pretty much around your aircraft, all the rest of it. The funny thing is, if you go into Europe, it seemed to be more figure painting, more diorama type things, and obviously a lot more armour than it is aircraft. I know different shows cater for different things and stuff like that, but definitely looking around to it. And also, like we said before, if you go to a show in Europe, they're a lot more family orientated. There's a lot more families going around, and we're not just talking the wife who's being dragged around or the partner who's being dragged around and the kids, because they are actively looking at it, talking to people and are involved with it, which is something we don't see over here. And I know I was talking to one of my members recently, and they were talking about how obviously in America, as big as that country is and all the rest of it, the shows are all quite small, and you always think in America it's bigger and better and all the rest of it. But it just sort of shows how even with those on that side, I know the country's bigger and logistically of going around and all the rest of it, but even at their shows, they're not as big as you would find them in Europe or in obviously the UK and stuff like that. And it's one of those ones where, is that a sign of perhaps the future? You look over to how the US is doing it and you think now the US doesn't have a mainstream modelling company. All right, we've only just hanging in there. But, obviously France, technically, I suppose it's German-owned now, isn't it? Hella. So, and things like that. But again, it's one of those things that if you're looking around at it, how it is definitely in the West compared to how it is in the Far East, it's completely different. And it's almost like we're being left behind and we're an afterthought. You imagine these companies when they're making kits, especially the Chinese ones, push it all over to the West because we lap it up. Now it's like get it when you get it.
Yeah, again, the shipping costs isn't helping, is it? With
it hasn't helped. No, absolutely.
There's a lot of factors that's gone into it without getting into politics as well over here. But there's a lot of factors that are affecting obviously stuff coming to the UK. But again, I mean, like we've said before, touched on Eastern Europe as well. The manufacturers in Eastern Europe, even the Ukraine, even though it's in the depths of the war at the minute, it's still producing kits and still got manufacturers. Poland, the old, what we'll call Czechoslovakia, if you want.
Yeah, back in the day,
now, or the Czech Republic, whatever, they've got a load in there and they embrace it. You know what I mean? Spain, look at Spain. You've got your ammo, you've got your AK, you've got them sort of Vallejo. So they've embraced sort of the paints and all that side of it rather than the kits. Italy is still a staple up, as in Italy, isn't it? They're still going after how long? They're still out there in Europe and still. So it'd be interesting to see people from Europe's comment about what is the when they do the shows. Is it more figure and armor based or aircraft based in certain countries? Because we've only been to a couple of shows, one in the Netherlands and obviously that one in Hungary. But again, you can see photos online. And the general consensus is, I think, obviously, like I think a lot of the armor thing came from the old MiG.
Yeah.
Sort of thing in the early 2000s, weren't it?
Mm-hmm.
That really
Yes.
took off, and obviously that's carried on for two separate businesses of what, how that's evolved. And it's kind of took off as a movement, if you want, isn't it?
Yeah,
Looking
definitely.
at art
Yes.
movements, the old sort of Spanish way
Yes.
has become quite a big movement, where it used to be the Linden, I suppose, before that.
It was, yeah.
I wouldn't say that was such a movement, but that was kind of a genesis for the armor modeling and Shep Payne and the dioramas, and them things started it, and then obviously it evolved late 90s, early 2000s. I presume that was when MiG really took off, isn't it? And his stuff.
I think you've hit actually a very valid point there about obviously we're talking about keeping the hobby alive and moving. Is that for people like MiG, and you got people like Night Shift and Plasmo and all the sort of the YouTubers out there who are doing it. It's almost those that are keeping the hobby alive, because you're bringing inspiration. Admittedly, most people look at them and go, I could never do that. But it's nice to watch it, and it gives me that inspiration as well. But it's people like those who are almost keeping the hobby going more than manufacturers.
I'd say YouTubers. I'd say there's a lot of really good modelers actually do YouTube videos as well.
And I can obviously, I appreciate, I will tip my hat to all the YouTubers out there. I know I never put myself into YouTube land because I don't see myself as YouTube, because my primary income is not YouTube. But that's what I will say as well. For these people, like, as you say, not so much me, because obviously he's got his own business running off the back of it. But for people like, the YouTubers out there, the Plasmos, the Night Shifts of this world, and all the rest of it that go with it, as I can testify, is that the revenue coming in from it, yes, it's a very nice helping hand. But you're never going to be paying off your mortgage on it. Not unless you have got millions of subscribers and all the rest of it, and you load it fully full of adverts and stuff. So, I tip my hat to those people who dedicate their time. Normally they've got a full-time job and they're doing it as extra, as well, that give that inspiration and keep the hobby moving along and jogging along, going through. Because again, it's one of those areas where, if it wasn't for people like that, what would you be doing throughout the summer?
Touching on the probably Plasmo and Night Shift, they're actually younger guys doing it. They're not
which is good. In no,
20
that's
years
it.
or so younger. They're I don't know, presumably about 30, say.
Yeah.
So in retrospect to obviously over here, they're quite young doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's obviously must be quite I mean, they've been doing it for long enough, haven't they? To be fair, they've been doing it quite a while, the pair of them now. So, which is good, because like I say, if it inspires people to do something, to keep it going eventually, it'd be interesting to see how it does evolve.
But again, I can understand obviously ethics at the moment are doing this sort of thing about pushing it through on social media and trying to go through, and they're trying to capture that side of it, which is a clever way, because clearly they're looking at YouTube as a pretty much a free advert, and they're understanding what people are doing and modelers, and they are getting a little bit hand on the pulse, which is better, I think, than a lot of companies do, about it, of using social media to work out where they're going to go with their company and what they're going to do. So fair play to them. But I just feel that these days that manufacturers as a whole, they're probably too busy, I think, trying to create kits and get them out, that they sort of forget about the bigger picture of like what's coming. Because obviously, like Tack and Meng is another one. They used to kick out kits all the time, and they still are to a certain extent. But we're getting a lot of versions of the same thing.
But my thought is it's very saturated, the old hobby. And I said it a few weeks ago that I think there's so many variants and so many people do different versions of, where before it was we're going back to the pool thing, but it was a smaller pool you had to pick from for a kit of a said subset. Where now obviously there's that many manufacturers out there who are doing, kind of the same thing. Let's be honest, I've got a Tack and one of them, and you've got the Meng one. Yeah. There's not that much difference in them, I can't see, is there? And obviously, if you want the early one, Trumpeter's going to bring an early one out, where before it's great you want to say, oh, we're in the golden age because you can get everything and anything, but in a way, it's a bit detrimental because there's so much of it as well. It's saturated, so people are not got the excitement because it's already there in a way. Somebody else has done it. You know what I mean? If somebody announces another 109, it's like, oh, great, another 109. Well, you know, I can get such and such as one,
Take
or
your
that
pick,
one, or that one, or a P51 or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's really got to be a step up for people to be interested than a previous one.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Definitely. No, 100%.
And I think, like you say, the actual subject matter is becoming a bit smaller to be exciting for a release, I think. Do you know what I mean? I think obviously we've had the Marauder, haven't we, this year that we waited for forever. And obviously this B24's out, which again the last one was the old Monogram kit back in the day. So unless you're going for a 48 Super Fortress next, or you know, obviously the B25 you've built, which again we waited God knows how long for a new one.
Forever.
I mean, there is stuff there to build, but is it commercially viable for a manufacturer to put the time in to produce it? That's the other thing you've got to think about, because people go, oh well, I'd love this and love that and whatever. I mean, me and you've said certain kits we'd really like, but actually realistically, would they put the time and effort in? Like the Halifax, you've got that old Halifax. I mean, it's a prime example. It's a heavy bomber. The RAF used it throughout the war and whatever, but it's very UK orientated subject. So then would it sell anywhere else?
No.
Don't know. It's one of them. It's one of them conundrums of a question that only manufacturers can answer, really, not us sitting here saying. But again, when ICM did the Bristol Beaufort, you built a Bristol Beaufort. Who'd have thought? To be honest,
no, that's it. Absolutely,
I can think of, before that was out and before EFX released the same second one, there was an old Special Hobby one. Which was really early Special Hobby and a bit of a beast to build, I think. And then I don't know after that. I don't know if there's vac forms of it or whatever, but it was a very sort of niche aircraft, shall we say. Well, again, it's interesting. It's sort of things I like because it's an interesting subject matter that nobody else really tackles. But interesting, isn't it? I don't know. I want to see some comments, actually. I want people to comment on this.
Yes, put your comments down below how you feel about it. It's one of those ones. I think the trouble is this time of year you get more time to think because there's not a lot going on, and you sort of question yourself.
Overthink.
Yeah, you do. You definitely do, because obviously, we've got a company. We've made no bones about this, and we sell kits. And obviously, this is coming into our quiet time as well because of the weather and everything else. From my point of view as well, on the Flory Model site, it's always our quietest time. And I appreciate people often say, yeah, but there's people on holiday and it's things like that. And it's nice to be out. I totally get it. Totally get it. As I said, for the Northern Hemisphere, you can see it. We call it the cliff. Coming to May, nothing happens throughout the entire summer. It's very, very quiet. Everything goes quiet. And then obviously we get to October. As soon as the clocks change, then obviously we said you get the ramp up to Telford as it used to be as well. It literally goes straight up again, where people coming back into it and everything else like that. So I do get it from that point of view. I think what I'm just getting at now is that our manufacturers just getting a little bit blinkered, and you just say our company's throwing out these things. Oh, we're going to be doing such and such. The hype bubble gets so big. And then it's just a complete letdown.
I think one company really fell foul of the the franchise side of it, because I think they've seen another company from Japan with a franchise for a certain, where I'm going with this, don't you?
Yes.
There's a bit of a cash cow. That might be all right for that market, but is it going to translate to this market? Do you know what I mean? And when that franchise, in my personal opinion, is completely losing its direction of what it's doing and where it's going, and you've paid a lot of money for that name to put on your kits, that could cost your company a lot of money, because you could be stuck.
Absolutely.
Do you remember when Airfix did? What did they do? The Olympic stuff.
Oh, it's the Olympic stuff. Yeah.
And then they did the footballers.
That was just
flop. Which, you know what, in 70 or 80 years' time are going to be so collectible and probably worth loads of money because because it'd be like the Boy Scout that they did, you know what I mean, back in the 60s or whenever they did it, because it's so niche and so nobody bought it or whatever, and it's so rare, that's what it come down to. But again, I think that's a rocky road to go down with the franchise thing, thinking that's going to be your cash cow. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think
Yeah.
as well, your kits then have really got to stand, be on point.
Mm-hmm.
You've done a review of something recently that there's a better version out there, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think everyone's going to know what we're on about here,
yeah,
but it's one of those ones where again, if you're going to be producing a kit of something, it's got to be to a certain standard, especially if you're going to be putting it up against something that's pretty darn good. And
I'm thinking the
what they
market
did
they're
was
aiming at,
just
let's be honest, because they're
awful.
probably not aiming at our market, they're aiming at
No,
younger market. So really, the easier kits to put together where it's a bit less hassle, which said, the company in Japan did that. They pretty much clicked together. The engineering is that good. An 8-year-old, 10-year-old can build it very easily, can't they? And they've got thing. Yeah. It's something they've got to bear in mind, but that's down to engineering and cost, isn't it? Because that's not cheap.
No, not at all.
That level of engineering that Bandai do is different level to everybody else, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yes.
Which they've learned over how many years of doing the Gunplers and the robots and the Gundam and all that, because they all do the same. So it must be easy for them to transfer that knowledge that they've got into doing a spaceship or a war
sci-fi stuff.
Something.
Yeah. No, definitely.
I don't know. Anyway, we'll try and keep it positive. We know I'm like quite positive on these shows, and we
do like to try and keep it positive, but sometimes, as you say, it grates.
You
need to vent. You need to vent. Right. Okay. So go on then. Show us it. It's finished. This is the Dragon 70-second scale. Gorgeous. P61.
Well, it's
Black Widow.
There you go.
It came out very well.
It was an exercise in trying to paint black. Keep it looking black, but not be black.
Yeah, not
if
be
that
black.
makes any sense whatsoever. And actually, do you know what? I don't think I've done actually a bad job of doing it.
No, I think it looks fantastic.
Reference photos that I was working off as well, so I did see how the weather and how the exhaust stains and and like I say, if you go and have a look at a vehicle that's painted black and how they get they're just dirty within minutes of you cleaning them, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So
yes,
I tried to keep it like that really. But yeah, quite pleased how it's turned out. Can't.
And like I said, as soon as you unmask it, it just comes alive because obviously all that glass work.
Yes, yeah, and actually there was a little bit of dust, but I had the access hole where the ladder is underneath here.
Yeah.
So I could get in with a little cotton bud, and I had a real dot that will be on the video right in the middle of this bit here. So I managed to clean that off. But yeah, I think it's come out all right, to be honest. I'd say a bit of a thing with my decals with the walkways, which is actually Tamiya tape.
It works because you'd never know.
Yeah, I took it to work yesterday because Andy wanted some photos and stuff for the video, and even he forgot it was Tamiya. He goes, "Oh right, yeah, you can't really tell, can you?" And actually, it don't look too bad to say it is, cut Tamiya tape off a Infini board. Yeah, done underneath as well. Let me try and get that so you can see. So it's weathered underneath. There you go, look.
Very nice.
Big hole in it. There you go. See? Oh, there you go.
Oh, Christ, don't smash it yet.
Oh, it's all right. It's only clipped on anyway. I never stick props on.
No.
So, yeah, that's done. It says, trying to fix it. There we go. I'll be about right. Just break it on camera. It's done now. I'm not bothered.
So as long as you've got the final reveal photos, it's fine.
It's finished. Yeah, we've got decent final reveal photos. It's done and dusted. So yeah, it's like I say, it's finished. I enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. A few challenges with fit on the booms and stuff, which I wanted. I wanted that sort of a bit of work to it. So yeah, all done. So video for the last part of that should be up on Thursday. We're hoping. So it's more of a vlogging video. And then the other thing I've been working on is this. Now, this goes back to last year, and it was a secret squirrel project, weren't it? I wasn't going to show anybody.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's been stuck in a box since, because I had trouble with decals and stuff. But I managed to, Andy bought me some decals, and I've got some other bits, and I can cobble it together to finish it. So this is the Hobby Boss 132nd Spitfire VB. Mm-hmm. It's done in the best scheme ever. Obviously,
absolutely, in Trop.
Desert colours, RAF Desert colours. So I started decaling it last night. So it's a mixture of the kit decals and tech mod. Which Andy gave me the tech mod ones, which I think are them. which are very
Yeah.
shiny. Can you see?
Yeah, very, very shiny.
And they're a
Yes,
bit
they are.
thick.
Very glossy. Yeah.
They're a bit thick, but they're
They're
working.
good, solid colour.
Yeah, as I managed underneath with the Hobby Boss decals, I was putting these roundels on underneath, and they just cracked and shattered. So hopefully these will be a little bit better. So, but yes. So I'm going to get this finished because, like I say, it's been all painted to that for ages. I just thought get it rattled out, and then I can go on with something else. So, but yeah, it's an all right kit, you know, for the money. I'd recommend it. I don't know how accurate it is, or
I was going to say, it's not an expensive kit. That's the thing.
It's not. It's a 30-40 quid for a 30-second, but it's all right. It goes together. Typical engineering of Trumpeter Hobby Boss. It goes together fantastic. So I've done a bit in the cockpit. To be honest, that long ago, I can't remember what I did. I'll have to look back at the video, but you don't see much. But I'm sure I've done an instrument panel. Might be a Yahoo instrument panel in there, and obviously some harnesses. But yeah, nice. So I might look forward to painting and weathering this.
Yes.
So obviously, again, I've got some really quite decent reference photos of Ali's faded and weathered and dusted and chipped and whatever else. So they've got a bit of a harder life. So this one was 1943 Sicily, this is. So, yeah.
Very good. Nice. Very nice indeed.
Yeah.
Cool. On my side of things, we're still on with the old Apache, and to be honest, we are literally all done. It's all completed. It's all built. We are into paint. We're going into paint tomorrow. Going to have a day in the paint booth, so and get it all painted up, and then we can really sort of get this thing together. So it is all there. I've just got a couple of little jobs to do on it. But basically, as I say, we're going to get the first coat of paint onto this one. So literally, we're just going to be coming in with the AK Real Colours 1. I'll put my glasses on so I can read it. So doing RC 229. So this is their Hilo Drab. But as I said before, and if you've seen the other shows, you'll know that I'm actually going to weather this one very heavily. I'm going to go to town on it. Going to give it a real sort of worn in theatre look. So we're going to be using this basically as just the base coat. And then we're going to be going through plenty of post shading right the way through. Then it'll be plenty of washes and pigments and everything right the way over this one just to weather it down and everything else. But all the rest of it, it's all done down in here. It's all set. It's all ready to go and everything. But from a build point of view, it's a beautiful kit. Goes together really, really well. No problem at all. I'd say it's one of those ones that's really has been a joy to build. And let's face it, I've been wanting to do a decent Apache now for the last, well, it feels like a lifetime, but for a good few years now, and it really hasn't disappointed. And that's the thing with this kit. I think it's one of those ones where sometimes they can give you, you know, a little bit of a problem, sometimes like rotor heads and stuff like that, because they're fiddly and the stuff. Honestly, this one, no problem at all. It's gone together really, really well. And it literally, as I said before on this kit, it's been so good that a lot of it just fits. It's really, really nice. Sometimes we talk about the engineering can be a little bit too tight. So by the time you get paint and things involved with it, I'm talking about wing nut wings, it can give you some fit issues. But they seem to have got the tolerances pretty much spot on with this, because it's just got a little bit of wiggle room, which enables you to get all the bits and pieces onto these and everything else. But also what I like about it, which is the same for most helicopters, but it's quite modular when you're working. So you're doing a cockpit, then you're doing obviously the sort of the rotor mast and all the rest of it. And it's all sort of subsections that then come together, and you can put them in, obviously the engines we did and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun going through this one. I highly, highly recommend it. I've got right back into helicopter kits now. That's it now. I'm there. I've been, because obviously next project's coming up for the rest of the year. I've got a few that I know what I'm doing, and then I'm trying to slip in another helicopter.
Have you got one in mind, or you just?
There's a few things I quite fancy having a little bit of a stab at, but as you say, it's one of those ones where I'm like, oh yeah. I was even thinking of other things like sky cranes. Actually, I might have a go at one of them, you know. But I don't. Yeah, the big one, only because I was watching a thing about them the other day and thinking, I don't know, it's quite cool. But yes, I don't know. So I keep saying to myself, I'm going to do small stuff, isn't it? I'm going to go back, do some 70-second scale and stuff. And seeing your P61 in that, it's so nice, that scale, you know, and seeing it come together is really, really nice. I'm thinking, I've got to go back doing the small stuff. And then I think, I've got an Osprey over there, I could do that.
Yeah. I mean, I've really gone back to 70-second. I mean, I know this obviously Spitfire's 30-second, but it's something that's been on the go since last year, and I just want it finished. Really, I just want to get it done. Because it's a waste. But with you with helicopters, I've got a nice little 72nd Wessex up there.
Yeah.
I've got another one I really am going to tackle that there's some stuff coming for it that I can't mention, but I will eventually, which will really upgrade it. So yeah, there's a few, and actually I've got a really I wouldn't say obscure, but probably one of the first twin engine helicopters. Tandem rotor thing.
Yeah.
From Piasecki, is it?
All right. Okay.
That's the name of the company who made it. A HRP-1. It is.
Okay.
It's scaffolding with some canvas around it and two engines. It's just properly 1940s, early 50s.
Yeah.
Heavy, I wouldn't say heavy lift, but do you know what I mean? A twin rotor thing, which is just right up my street because it's an early helicopter and it's. Yeah, you wouldn't want it. I don't know. I wouldn't feel safe going in one. It looks proper rickety, but it's a cool subject. So yeah, I've got a few, and there's a few other things as well I want to tackle. Like so I've got a thing for RAF Transport Command as well at the minute.
Yeah,
so those who
definitely
did it, I've got it down there. I'll show it on another show when I'm back. But I showed it on the members show. My lump of resin,
and it is a lump of resin. Yes.
Yeah, you could club somebody to death with it. It's proper solid. So that's it's an interesting subject though, isn't it? It's a big lump, but an interesting subject. Well, yeah. So just while I remember, just let everybody know, PM Models is on annual leave from next week. So from the weekend till the weekend after is it on that? So no orders, and we'll be putting a banner up on everywhere that we're selling. That obviously from we're on annual leave, so Phil's even having next week off. I'm going to allow him have a break, have a chill, then we'll be back because there's some massive things going on the week after when we're back because it's a run up, it's anniversary D-Day. We've got a full jibby jobby weekend of that. There's going to be
full build
sales. There's going to be all sorts going off. So we're going to have a week off, recharge. Have a nice break and then come back and then hit it over the summer because keep things alive and try and get a bit of a buzz back and excitement. I think we're manually going to have to do it. Saturday morning shows probably will make a return as well if and when we can do them. Again,
the big thing is just point this one out. It's going to run from the 6th of June, which is a Thursday. It's going to have a live show Thursday night, and then obviously we're going to be with you all weekend.
And we want to build along because we are
build along with us. Yes. So D-Day theme, anything D-Day is what we're going. We're all building. I've got the Typhoon Mark 1 Hasegawa 48 scale kit. I'm going to be building that one as well. So we want us to join on.
So we think there could be a lot of Typhoons, a lot of P47s.
There will be, yeah. Well, that's my other option because I've got the P47 here as well with all the markings.
Yeah.
And I did think about doing that one, but there's no way I'll be able to build that in a week. So that's a bit more of an in-depth job.
Tamiya one.
Yeah, that'll be
Tamiya P47 bubble top, which again is a great kit, and it's not that hard to build in 48. I've got a couple of ideas. I'm a bit of swinging between doing a bit of armor or an aircraft at the minute. There's a couple of things. It's like I said, we'll have a week or so, and then we'll be on it, won't we? So
yes,
quite excited, quite looking forward to that. Like I say, keep things positive. I know it's been a bit of a negative show. I don't mean it to be. But sometimes you've just got to vent it out, let it go. It's good. It's good for the mind to.
Yes, that's it. Cleansed.
To cleanse. It is. Cathartic. It's called as well. That's the word. And again, if you've got comments on it, let us know because obviously we're not in a bubble by far, but sometimes you can get a bit blinkered with things, and perhaps it's not as bad as we perhaps think it is.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely.
Cool.
Right, okay then guys, we will leave it right there. Thank you very much for joining us today. As I say, it's a little bit all over the place this week because I've got hospitals and treatments and various things going on as well. But so I'm going to be pushing on with the Apache, going through with that. Members, I'll be back with you vlogs anyway this week. Matt might have something up for Thursday then.
Yeah, and he's on it now. He's chucking it all together, so there should be something ready. So
cool. Very, very good. Okay then guys, thank you very much for joining us. Happy modelling, take care. We'll see you all going very soon. Say goodbye, Matt.
Bye.